All right. Hey, peeps. Welcome to Hard Talks. I'm Sheila Jean Berger. Today, my guest is Vito Mucci. And listen, remember when we were talking, had a whole series of the divine masculine. And man, we had some good shows on that. Well, I'm bringing it back today. And if you've been listening to the last few shows, I kept bringing up about the children and how the children are affected by, whatever topic we were talking about. Well, today we're going to bring the divine masculine into the parenthood area and how to process emotions, because man, I'm telling you right now, the energies are coming in and they're bringing those emotions to the surface. And my friend Vito, we've been friends for a while now, he has got some very clear answers and perspective on this. So welcome so much to Heart Talks. I've waited a long time to have you here. And he's got a book that is coming out pretty soon, Coffee for the Consciousness 101. Going to be a great book. I'm really looking forward to that. So welcome, Vito.
Hi there. I'm slightly new to Skype, but from what I understand, everyone can see me talking, so that's cool.
Absolutely. We're live. This is Heart Talks TV right here.
Okay. So you wanted to talk about divine masculine and parenting. It was an interesting thing growing up, the way that I did. My brother got cancer when I was very young, and I remember a specific moment, and I cover this in the book because it was such a decisive moment for me when he got sick the second time. I was 15, and something became very clear to me, and it was just the ability to step out from a rooted perspective in a situation or in a moment and look at it from a fatherhood point of view. And I'm not sure if it was Joseph Campbell or if it was reading John Bradshaw when I was young, but trying to understand the dynamics of everyone being affected by a system or a moment or a trauma or any of that, and being able to see how that plays out across everyone. I didn't necessarily realize what it was at the time, of course, being 14 or 15, but the feeling, it was so strong. It was like I had reached down into like the depths of a river that I had just been floating in and felt this really rich current. And that clarity, it was so precise, and it could work for anybody. I remember because I was in a room full of people, relatives, and there was like a wedding, and we got the news there. So it was really, there was a lot for me to work with. There were a lot of people I did know or didn't know that all had to watch as the news filled the room. Oh. And I got to see not only how I was responding, but how I could ease everybody else's responses and give them the space that they needed to do what they needed to do. I mean, starting with taking the phone away from my mother so that she could, start crying and have that moment for herself. And then I had to talk to my brother, who was the one who had to give everybody the bad news. That was terrible. I mean, for him. And so I got to move across the room and feel out the different, whatever anybody needed to process their emotion. All I had to do was kind of allow it. And even in its very first, stages of entering that kind of role, it was really powerful and rich. And, I don't want to talk about the role too much because it seems like there's this, we can set ourselves aside or apart. But I was definitely also doing it with myself. There was a part of me that was parenting myself in that moment, and allowing for whatever I needed to process. I was horrifically sad and scared, and I wasn't I wasn't squashing that so that I could do something for somebody else. And I think that there's a lot of stepping into a larger role for people that we might do to escape from our own processing. And it's very important that we don't do that.
Could you call that like sort of like divine observation?
I call that observation consciousness. And I think whenever we hit like the pause button in our mind and branch out and see the whole of the emotions coming in toward us, the emotions that are surrounding us. I'm doing all these arm movements because I'm Italian and no one can see it. All these emotions that are surrounding us, all of these phenomena like a storm with wind and lightning, if we can step back and see all that, then we can form relationships with each part of it. And that is really where I love consciousness to go. And really that's what I took from that situation was the individual connections I made to each person in that room. Not me just stepping out and playing dad to everybody. That wasn't it. It was me finding a way to form a relationship with everyone in the room so that they had room to process and I had room to process. And if we could help each other, then great. If not, I helped them, or we didn't help each other, or they got me coffee or something, you know. Right. But the idea was getting enough distance to form a relationship. And that's really the big thing.
And doesn't that flow, that river that you talk about, it comes automatically with the wisdom to know what to do with each, what to say and do and when.
It's really rich in instinct. It's so powerful, and it's
okay. And now let's take the perspective of the divine masculine and how you are applying that with parenting with your boys, because you talk about your kids all the time, and you do use them as the examples of how to get through situations. I really, really honor you for that.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. The best thing I find is because normally I'd say, oh, you allow them to make mistakes and then you correct and then you support, and that's a little bit too surface for me. I want to get them in an activated state of mind. So with one of my boys has a little bit more temper than the other one, like I had. Mm-hmm. I wait until he's angry and then I hold him in that spot and I make him aware of everything going on around him. And this is, I have to be brave to do that because he may break something, and I'm letting him do this. So I'm kind of almost giving him permission to act out, but I'm also giving him a ton of space. So I try to give a little bit of boundaries, but I'm not trying to just say, oh, get over it, or no, it's not a big deal, or whatever emergency he's having. And there were a couple when he was like 11, I think, that were, for me it's trivial, but if I convince him that it's trivial, I'm giving up a really teachable moment and a really important moment when he's so activated, so passionate about something. And to allow him, to hold him there because he's got to form a relationship with that feeling. If he can form a relationship with the feeling, then he can use it. But I have to be distant. I have to have enough distance for that.
How do you hold him there? How do you do that? Okay, give us a little example.
Good question. So
he's upset about something.
He was upset about he got kicked off a server where he was playing games, and he was infuriated. And I sent him to his room to cool off, and I could sense that he wasn't cooling off and that it was an important moment. So I just went in there and I sat 5 feet away from him. And I could sense that if I left the room, he was going to throw something. And if I stayed in the room, he couldn't cool off. So I just stayed in there. and let him, he kind of picked at things around the room, and I could see the rage swell in him and come back down. And so I basically took him on a mini guided meditation almost. I'm like, I know you're seeing red. I know your heart is tight. I know your arms want to hit things. I know you're numb all over your body. And so what I did was I validated everything that was going on internally for him. And that kept him right there with me. And we stayed in that spot for probably about 10 minutes. And, that's in the middle of rage, and not like rage where you count to 10. That's rage where you got to break something before you feel better. So, we minimized the damage that night. Nothing expensive got broken.
Right. Okay. And from that point, what did you do? How did by validating his anger and his feelings, then that gave him a safe place to express what was, then he could talk about it? Is that what happened?
He didn't have to be scared of me. And because he was in that state without damaging anything in his room or anything in the house, he could be confident that he could be in that state of really heightened aggression and still manage his behavior.
So and that, showing him that.
Yes. I held him there to show him how long he could sit in that without having to act out. And on the flip side of that, I have PTSD. If I go into a panic attack, I bring him to me while I'm emotionally activated. And I show him what I do. And, my panic attacks can range from just the minor shakes and not being able to talk to being kind of huddled in a corner. And he's seen both of those. And it's my job to do two things. I'm going to show him the amount of emotional activity I'm going through. It's physical, it's like being crushed. It's really powerful. And so I'm going to show him that. But I'm also going to say, this is going to pass in about 10 minutes, and there's nothing you're supposed to do. I just want you to see it. I'm going to let it wash over me, and it's going to be gone. It's temporary. And so those are probably the biggest things, is showing somebody using space and giving somebody space to have emotion without freaking them out. Like, I wasn't allowed, but no one in my house when I grew up had rage issues. They never yelled. I didn't know that I was even angry until I was like 22 years old. And I broke my own car window while I was driving on it. Not on accident. I knew I was going to punch it. I just didn't think I was going to hit it that hard. Yeah. But that's the thing, is I was totally unprepared for that moment of being under the influence of such a large emotion. Right. And processing emotion has to take place for us to have a larger amount of influence over our behavior.
Okay. This new level of honesty is golden, because we couldn't really be that honest with the generations before us. That was not at all applied. Okay. And I believe that to be that honest with your child is a break in the chain of patterns that have been going on for a very long time. And your sons will now be the first generation you have produced. It's a miracle. It really is.
I like to call it a changing experiential DNA, because what we pass down from generation to generation, we can just we can make decisions on the level of awareness that we pass down, and that's what I like. It's fun because 2 generations ago we were just trying to get the normalcy of abusing and beating our children down. Then okay, let's be nice to our kids and try to support them. But now we're going to train them in adulthood while still allowing them to be children. So they get to be kids because I'm giving them tons of space. They can't hurt me. I'm the big one. They're the little one. I'm the adult. I'm the parent. so they can have their emotional processes and go nuts and cry and be angry. And my job is to have them form relationships with those moments the same way that I formed relationships with my moment when I got the bad news when I was 14. And that's...
And in your book, did you kind of outline this process so that people can be educated on that?
Absolutely. I hit on it probably about 8 different times in the book, but in the book in general, I do not take any specific situation and beat it into the ground. I like to move around a little bit, but we had a moment where, before he got on the bus, he realized he had forgotten, his headphones. And so it was the same thing. He's having an emotional reaction, furious, and about to get on the bus to have his whole day at school. So I have 60 seconds to try to teach him, okay, we're going to process this in this amount of time, and you can do that. So we're going to find a different way to process the situation. We're going to take a different perspective. So today on the bus, you're going to focus on this, and you're not going to be upset that you left your earbuds. You're going to have better conversations. You're going to think of new things. You're going to, think about video games you want to play. And so instead of having a reactive consciousness that's trying to fix the problem, instead of having that, I immediately got creative. And that's really what saves. It's really what saves us when we're processing deep emotion, is to get creative and to be able to switch our perspectives around. And so I touch on that a few times in a few different areas in the book.
Okay, and oh man, 3 minutes. Dang. Okay.
We're at 3 minutes already?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk forever.
Yeah. Oh, no, not 3? Okay, good. Okay, let's add to that most of us have starseed children. We've got 14 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's great.
We have children whose DNA is already equipped for the new world.
They are truly exceptional.
And they are brilliant. They are extremely sensitive.
Right.
And I believe they should be treated so. And the only way you know how to treat a star child is to learn and to listen to them. Absolutely. And to believe them. Absolutely. And you are doing a magnificent job making a process, outlining a process, because I think all parents want to be good parents and want to make good decisions. But if you've only been shown this, and if you've not yet tapped into that flow as you have,
right.
Okay, then, and I like having these processes given from people who have star children, as well as us being star children.
Right.
Are also adapting and hopefully getting some control of our thoughts and helping our DNA and change. So okay, and what can you say for the males in this process? What can you say to our...
The biggest thing I've found for men, specifically in this society, and this society has a lot of influence over the world, so, referring to how they do it in other places, I don't think it matters so much, because we're such a different mix of history here in this country. The thing that I remember being taught when I was young was how to compete. Like, I was in sports and I loved, math, but I had respect for the game and myself as an athlete more than winning and losing. That was just naturally how my family taught it. And I don't know, what I see is a lot of issues for men with rejection and taking loss personally. And um, the biggest thing I learned, and I learned this pretty young, was that, man, the mistakes that I made, and I made some really bad ones, like my son's mouth dropped wide open when I share it with him. Like, you seriously did that? I'm like, yeah, I was not in a good spot, and it seemed like the best idea at the time, and it really wasn't. And instead of having this burden of guilt and this history of burying and justifying to get away from cognitive dissonance about, the things that I've done in my past, the really questionable years of questionable things that I did, to be able to see that as a dismantling of the expectation of what adulthood was supposed to be. Mm. Because when I was a kid, my parents were magic, just like everybody's parents were magic, because they had it all together. They had it down, and they could totally function. They loved each other, obviously, because they were, together. And, that's coming into adulthood. I felt so betrayed. I was furious. I was absolutely furious. And that trauma of it not coming together for me in the way that I thought it was supposed to, is such a deep wound. And I think we just pile on top of that wound for really a decade at least, until we're about 28 or 29. And then we start trying to unravel it a little bit. And, I want to get at that a lot faster. I want people to go into adulthood and be able to say, okay, so this is going to not work the way I'm expecting it to. And the loss of that expectation is going to be kind of painful. And I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to betray my dreams. I'm going to hurt the people that are closest to me. And that's one of the hardest things ever about Divine Masculine is I'm going to hurt people. I'm going to hurt my children on accident. I'm going to hurt my wife. And I got to somehow show up the next day with all that guilt. I love these people more than anything. And who's the first person to get hurt? They are. If I don't process my anger from road rage or somebody cutting me off or things not going well at the bank, I'm going to yell at my oldest. It's going to happen. And he knows it. And we've talked about it. I'm like, just so you know, I had a rough day. You're the first one that's going to get it. That's called anger transference. It's not going to excuse my behavior. So just give me a few minutes, all right? Because I don't want to feel guilty on top of being angry, okay? And he looks and goes, okay, yeah. I'll give you a few minutes. And that whole year's worth of burying and him trying to figure out where I'm at and trying to figure out if he's safe and if I can handle my own emotions, all that's over in 30 seconds because I just described it. It's now weightless.
Just talking about it, I feel the weight off my shoulders. Oh my God.
It's like that. And
isn't all things of love and light that simple?
I think if you embody it, it's that simple. Right. I think once you're embodying it, yes.
Yes.
I think embodying it has a lot to do with, me feeling that anger all day and being open enough to be like, yeah, I can't control my emotions. I'm going to hurt somebody. I got to try not to do that. And I'm not in control. And I'm not in as much control as I want to be. So I'm going to try to influence this situation as best I can. But being able to understand that we're giving up the reins at some point is that's huge. And then, again, it's like stepping into that lower current of the stream. Then it's much easier to guide ourselves when we're furious or frustrated or sad or we feel betrayed or, there's injustice, which is pretty constant. The injustice is pretty constant. So, right. And we're all sentient and even non-sentient beings have a violent reaction to unfairness, which is really weird because life is really, really unfair. We're not built very well for that. So,
hopefully we're getting better.
Well, I mean, I don't think the internal matrix is getting better, but I mean, whatever we're using to process is definitely heightened. And I gotta say, years and years of having to because PTSD, I have to process my emotion or I end up in a ball in a corner. And if I don't go, oh, okay, I'm triggered by something. Okay, wait, hold on, just relax, and let it flow through you. Okay. If I don't have that moment with myself, I can lose an entire day. And I can make really bad decisions and I can hurt people. And like, that's awful to know that emotions have so much power and that our environment, internal and external, has such a large influence. And accepting that and being honestly run over by that is what got me to embody the love and light stuff a whole lot more. Because I have to get run over to get there.
And really, we've mentioned that this is, divine masculine, but really this is for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
This process can be ingested by moms and dads.
Yeah. Oh, this is divine. I mean, this is divine parenting is giving.
You're right.
And as a divine masculine, like, I'm going to be rougher with my boys, and then my wife is, and that's the way that goes. Like, I have a divine masculine part of it where I'm going to challenge him a lot more with my physical, energetic presence than being nurturing and mothering. I'm going to push him a little bit. It's kind of my job. Okay. And, I recognize when my stepdad and brother did that for me.
And it's interesting how to balance that masculine and then the mother energy into one child.
Right. Yeah, they're like really awesome science projects.
Right. And especially if you don't have two parents who are working together on this approach.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how important it would be, whether it's this approach or anything, that the parents really kind of need to say, well, okay, let's work together on this process of healing, because that's what we're all doing.
Right. Well, the wound starts at birth. We're separated from wherever we came from. That was and brought out of the womb, which was also pretty nice. It was nice in there, nice and safe and warm. And now we're being told we have to share stuff.
Yeah, right.
Crazy. Everything belongs to me. That's the way it was, out there. That's the way it was back in source. Like I could share, right? Everything was here. I owned everything. So, that wound, and I wasn't as tested with toddlers as Claudia was. She had them as boys, but she was really amazing with them.
Well, Vito, we could talk forever. Thank God you've written a book. And when that gets out, we'll have you back on the show again, and maybe we can, get a little more. We need to expose this. This is something I have 9 little star children in my world, and I hope that I am being an example to them of service and of sharing and of goodness. And I want them to know that my guests are all doing the same thing. Thank you so much. Where can you be reached?
I'm on Facebook. The book will have its own Facebook page, of course. I'm on Twitter under Vito Mucci, or Alyosha Mucci, I think is my handle. And Heart and Soul Imprints are where we do the paintings. We do healing art, which is kind of like the little idols that you look at when you're pregnant that you're supposed to use to keep your focus.
Yeah.
So that's how we paint. We paint and put an intention in that, just like you would when you were in that process. And so far.
And then if they want to reach me at SheilaJeanBerger.com, you can certainly reach me. I can get you in touch with Vito if you'd like to ask him any questions or get in contact with them or anything. We're just going to work together on this.
And the book will be out soon. It'll be soon. It'll be within a month.
Great. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Vito. Thank you very much. From my heart to yours, peeps, namaste.
From astral travels to recognizing and mastering life's tools, we will get to the heart of the matter here at Heart Talks with Sheila Jean Berger.
Oh.